Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and as always, a delight to have in the studio with us Doug Gould. Doug heads up one of the great ministries of Southern Oregon, and a guy that does a terrific job, and I'm so proud of what he does, and I want you to be encouraged to support what he does, because he's a living example. Whatever God saves you from, brings you through, turns you around, makes you a minister too. He heads up a program called Foundations for Recovery, and excellent program. How you doing, bud?
Good, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you bet. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Well, for those who don't know, Foundation for Recovery, it is?
Foundation for Recovery is a drug and alcohol treatment and prevention agency located in downtown Medford at the old Woolworth building. We're on the 4th floor. We just celebrated our 3rd year of being in existence.
Wow.
And this was a vision from our late founder, Steve Hale.
Right.
He realized that the group therapy, even though it is successful, wasn't producing the results like he wanted. And so he checked around and found an organization called the Connecticut Community for Addiction Recovery and offered peer mentoring. So he checked into that, wanted to know what peer mentoring was, and thus the Foundation for Recovery was born. And peer mentoring is personalized one-on-one recovery coaching. Yeah. And like you said, you know, we're a firm believer that God never passes upon using a hurt in our life to help someone else. And what better way than to reach out to the community of those who struggle with addiction than to have someone behind that desk who's been certified by the state of Oregon, who's been trained, who's equipped to talk about the pitfalls of addiction, than having someone that has already experienced it. And so all of our coaches have been experientially qualified, if you will. We've all been there. I'm a recovered alcoholic myself. And it's a great program of connecting with the individual.
Well, very successful and outstanding, and you're just getting immense marketing out there. I mean, everybody talks about you. It's working so well that I'm amazed. You know.
Well, it's a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And you know, knocking on doors and reaching out to the community and having these monthly luncheons. And this coming year, we're going to be doing them again.
Good.
And we've got some great supporters in the community. And then this coming year, one of our goals, in January, we're going to be starting a new youth mentoring program called Step Up, Speak Out, Stand Firm.
Wow.
It's for ages 11 through 17, who high-risk young people who are battling addiction. And right now we have 4 clients already at the foundation who are providing treatment to them. But this coming year, we hope that other churches and churches in our community will see the need that we want to team up with the Foundation for Recovery in regards to this. And we're growing little by little, and it's a great thing to see.
All right, let's talk about the season. We're going in, here we are, Christmas and New Year. It's a festive time, but it's also a very blue, low time for a lot of people, and if not carefully monitored, they could fall back.
Correct. One of the things that we try to teach at the foundation is not only sobriety, but understanding emotion. And the things I share with our coaches and our participants is the fact that it's okay to feel. Because so many years we've been covering up those emotions. God created those emotions, you know. And of course, some of those emotions are man-made: fear, anxiety, depression, and so forth. And so what we try to do at the foundation is try to teach our participants that it's okay to feel. One of the reasons why we have our phone number as hope, because many times the person that walks through our doors, they feel no hope. And this season, these usually the holiday season produces that anxiety or that depression where they feel that they have no hope. And that's what we try to teach. There is hope. There is help. But there's tips you have to do to be successful through the holiday season.
Like what? What are some tips to help stay sober?
Well, you know, I brought a few with me. Number one, first of all, have a plan. You know, if you're going to go out to a family gathering or an employment gathering where alcohol could be served, you better have a plan. And one of the things that I share with the participants is make sure you're accountable. Have an accountability partner, whether at your place of business or at your friend's house and so forth. Another way to be successful through the holiday season is to make sure you go to meetings. Make sure you have phone numbers that you can call. And I'm not just talking about 1 or 2 numbers. And one of the hardest things to do in recovery, Perry, is to pick up the phone and to call a friend. But you can call us at the foundation because we'd love to help you. You know, so these are simple tips. You know, to plan ahead.
Should they, if you have this problem, this addiction, and you're not on top of it yet, just stay away?
Well, it very well could be the choice. And one of the things that we also teach is old environment, old behavior. So if you're finding yourself drifting back into that area of comfortability, that security, you may want to call your sponsor, your recovery coach, to say, listen, I'm feeling that I want to hook up with some old friends in an old environment, because that usually produces old behavior.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's another tip that they need to have. And plus, the Medford Fellowship Group here locally has all-day meetings tomorrow for Christmas. So there's opportunity in recovery to stay clean and sober.
Good for you. All right, so what are your plans for 2015? What can people maybe consider partnering you with? Were we walking through the door? You said you need a building.
Yeah.
You're renting space upstairs. You need your own space.
Yeah, you know, it's so funny. On Monday, I was planning to take this week off, but I went into the office on Monday, and it was such a good thing to see. We had 6 of our recovery coaches in there. We had about 12 people in the office.
Wow.
Now, we only have about 400 square feet.
Wow.
And so what our coaches have to do is there's conference rooms at the Woolworth building, and sometimes they have to take them across to downtown grounds and have a cup of coffee, or down the hallway. And even though it's not an ideal situation, we still want to meet with our clients and our participants. So right now, I encourage, if you're watching this program, you can help us out. One of the main goals this year for the foundation is to get a larger office.
Okay, so you're 12 to 100 to maybe 2,000 square feet.
Absolutely.
And you need about 4 or 5 offices and maybe a conference or a meeting area. Really.
Yeah, like for group therapy, or we want to make our office, our facility, so friendly and welcoming to the community, where those who struggle in addiction can just come and hang out. They can work on their 12 steps. They can go to school, do their homework there, to make it a more of a home office where young people can come in and just be in a safe environment. So we're looking for an office.
Well, there's somebody out there listening, watching, that has that, and I'm going to trust the Lord to kind of just give you a miserable day. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
Oh gosh. Right now, we're making a big push for, one of the things that we pride ourselves, we don't charge for services. We're primarily funded by people in the community, local churches, local businesses, to say, foundation, I believe in you. And one of my pitches that I give to a potential donor is 83 cents a day, which is $25 a month, allows that participant to sit with that coach for 1 hour.
Okay.
But we're looking for support.
Okay, sure.
We have grown through the past 3 years. When I took over, we had 2 monthly donors, and I'm happy to say we're at about 75 monthly donors, which is great. But if we can increase, then that's an opportunity where I can do more services in the community.
I want to say to those, especially this end of the year, if you're looking for a place to maybe do a year-end gift, this is a great organization. May I recommend it to you wholeheartedly. So consider that and pray for that. And let me tell you this, I know not only is it here at the Dove, but all ministries, dollar in, dollar out.
Sure.
And so these guys are doing an incredible job. Not only that, but their success rate is the highest in the industry. You're the highest in all the people that do this. You guy has the highest success rate.
Well, peer mentoring. I mean, we were told when we first started this thing that we'd be pushing 60% when we went back to class in Hartford, and Phil Valentine, Dr. William White, they knew what they were talking about. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Before I run out of time, the youth program, 11 to 17. Wow. How do you get the word out for that?
Well, we've been invited to churches. We got done doing a parent conference, and if you're a church, please invite us. We do parental conferences. The one at Shepherd of the Valley Church, Joyce Marks invited us there, and we talked on Measure 91, the marijuana law, and signs to look for in reference to teen and drug abuse. But we're trying to get the word out to the churches in the community.
Hey, let me say to pastors and youth pastors, ask Doug to come in and speak to your parents and to your youth, either both of them, because here's an agency that could come in and really help in all situations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So.
Well, Doug, this is amazing. I can't say enough for what they're doing.
Thanks, buddy.
And if you've got a building, 1,200 to 2,000 square feet, and you want it to be used for the Lord, you get a hold of Doug. I believe that God will favor you. I just believe that. When you do something for God, you can't outgive him. He's got bigger shovels. And so you just pray about that and give Doug a call. And you need mentors.
Mentors?
Okay, so if you've been through this and you're on the other side, you want to give back, give Doug a call.
Sure, absolutely.
And again, if you're tugged and you have the resources, consider them for a year-end gift or maybe on a monthly basis as well.
Amen.
I love you, brother. And
love you too, my friend. Merry Christmas to you.
Let's stay in touch through the year and see what God's doing, huh?
Will do.
All right, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Welcome back, and coming up, we've got some great guests coming here in just a few moments, and I just want to take a little bit of time here today to just share with you from some things here going on at the Dove, and to say thank you for supporting the Dove. And of course, we just had Doug Gould, and coming up is Bryan Platt with the Jackson County Right to Life. There are a lot of organizations for you to consider this time of the year, and I pray that you will prayerfully consider supporting the one that tugs on your heart the most. And there are some worthy organizations out there that need your help. Salvation Army, we got the Foundation for Recovery, we got Jackson County Right to Life, we have the Pregnancy Center, both in Jackson and Josephine County. Some wonderful organizations, and if you have the means and the resources and you feel led of the Lord, pray, just ask the Lord, Lord, what should I do? It doesn't have to be much, and believe me, it doesn't have to be big gifts. That's not what it's about. It's just praying and obeying that the Lord would use you to support these organizations and the work that they do. It is just wonderful. And Doug being here, and I've seen it firsthand. It's amazing. So pray about that. And if the Lord's leading you to support the Dove, great. We could use it too. But don't take from your church, and don't take from any other ministry that you may be supporting. But if the Lord's leading you to help us on the year end, that's fine too. But I just want to say, most importantly, coming up Tuesday here at the Dove, we have set this day aside, Tuesday, January 6th. It's the first Tuesday in January. And I really felt like the Lord was moving on my heart to do this quite some time ago, and I was trying to figure out when and where and how, and so that it can be done with great impact. We're setting that day aside, January 6th, as a day of prayer. And we'll have some prayer teams in the building that will be praying for you. And we'll be praying for you on the air that day. We'll be praying for you throughout the day. And you can rest assured that as you share with us your prayer request, we will not be giving any names on the air. We won't do that. So we'll keep that part of it very confidential. But I'm sure that as you're heading into 2015, you have a lot of things that you're praying for. I don't know of anybody that doesn't have a packed prayer list. And but what's at the top? What's the one right at the top? What's the one that requires most of your attention, that kind of grabs most of your emotion? Would you feel comfortable sharing that with us? And there's several ways you can do it. If you got our letter in the mail, just tear off the prayer request thing at the bottom and write on there what it is and put it in the envelope there and send it back. If you got our email, the e-blast that we sent out a couple of days ago, we'll send it out again just so that you could be reminded. You can fill that out, and well, there's a place where you click and you can send your prayer request there. And if you didn't receive either one, you can go right to the Dove website at theDove.us, and you will see at the top right-hand corner, you'll see a cross with the word prayer on there. You can click on that and send us your prayer request. I really feel compelled of the Lord to do this. Now, we've done it several times in the past, and hundreds of prayer requests came in, hundreds of them. And I think that's already happening now. We've had quite a few already come in through the mail. We've had quite a few come in through the email and through the e-blast. But we want to make sure that whatever it is that's burdening you or that's got your attention, and the number one thing on your list, we want to join with you in prayer. And I've been asking the Lord for an outpouring of His Spirit, not only on the Dove and our lives, but here in Southern Oregon. And that we would begin to sense what really is the presence of the Lord. What is that? What is that? We saw it in the Old Testament when they were moving the Ark of the Covenant. It was the pillar of fire and the cloud at night. We saw it in the New Testament with the birth of the new church, or the New Testament church in the book of Acts. There is a divine presence. There is a supernatural presence of the Lord that can be experienced. And unfortunately, we have replaced it with programs and fancy things and all of these other things. And I know they all have their places. I'm not being an old fuddy-duddy here. Everything has its place and its purpose. But how long has it been since you've really felt in your heart and in your soul the presence of God? And that's what I've been praying for. And that's what we want to pray for as it relates to your prayer requests. So go online at theDove.us and click on where you see the cross and the word prayer. Click on that and send us your prayer request. So coming up January 6th, that's the first Tuesday of the new year, we're going to be praying for you all day long. We've got people coming in. We'll be doing it on the air. We'll be doing it off the air. We have folks that are going to be in certain areas of the building praying. And we've set that day aside to take your request and help you and come alongside. It says, you know, when they lifted up the hands, Moses, the battles were won, you know. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to help lift up your hands and help carry the burden. So be sure you take time to send us your prayer request. You know what? There's no request that is, you would think, well, this is frivolous. It's just, it doesn't mean a whole lot, but this is on my mind. You know what? It means a lot to God. So you may not think it's much, but maybe it's occupying your mind. That's a concern to God. So whether it's financial or physical healing or relationships or situations, big decisions in your life, job decisions, family decisions, moving, giving things away, all of these things, whatever it is, take the time to go to theDove.us, find the cross there up on the upper right-hand corner. You'll see the word prayer. Click on that and send us your prayer request. And if you got the letter in the mail, take time, write it out, send it back to us. Or if you got the e-blast, click on where it says send here, and we'll get it out to you. And then one last thing before we break away for our guests. I personally have had a lot of calls and some emails of people wanting to know, is there anything we can do to get Fox News back on Dish? The answer is no. I find that very interesting. Yet it's very frustrating. Fox News is not on the Dish satellite. They're in the middle of very contentious negotiations. This happens in our industry quite often, and it's tough to deal with. It really is, especially if you bought a package on Dish that included those channels and now you're not getting them. That's tough. That's really tough. And the question is, you know, is it a breach of contract? Whose fault is it really? When the finger pointing is going on, and it's just not right when you're paying for something and you're not getting it. Well, there are two solutions that I'm recommending people when they ask me about this. One is, if you're going to switch services, why don't you consider Charter? And the reason I say that, Charter's been wonderful to the Dove. Absolutely wonderful. We're on Charter Channel 18 in Jackson County, Josephine County, and Klamath County. And so if you're going to switch, you may want to consider Charter. You're not only going to get Fox News back, but you'll get the Dove. How about that? All right. And the other thing you may want to consider is, you may want to, for $50, one time, not a monthly charge like you have on satellite services, which can be very expensive, but for one time you can go buy a little Roku box. This is what it looks like. and they're about $50. You can get them at Best Buy and other places around. And the Roku box talks to the Wi-Fi system in your house, connects with that, and boom, you got about 600 free channels. Now, a lot of the major networks will have programming on there, but not a live feed on there. But you know what? I think this is the wave of the future. So for a one-time investment of $50, you're going to have all of these channels at your fingertips. And of course, on there, you're going to find the Dove in several areas. You're going to find it in the inspirational category, and you're going to find it in the news category. And you can not only watch the Dove live, but you can watch all the Dove shows in the past. All of our archive shows are there, and you can just, it comes with a little remote. You'll be able to click on that and watch the Dove live, or you can watch some of the shows that we've done in the past. So you may want to consider Roku. By the way, this would make a kind of a fun Christmas gift. And run over and get one and sign up. So anyway, thank you. Thank you for supporting the Dove. Thank you for praying for the Dove. Thank you for your faithfulness this past year. It has been a blessing. And we'll be giving you a recap first part of next week. Merry Christmas to you. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we got a couple of great guests coming in the studios.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Welcome back. Well, delighted to have with us a gentleman I've been looking forward to talking to. Mark Beliles is with us. He's the author of a book called Doubting Thomas, the religious life and legacy of Thomas Jefferson. And there's a picture of it there on the screen. You may want to check it out at the bookstores. And he's pretty interesting. He writes a lot and studies a lot and lectures a lot about Jefferson. He's chairman of the Charlottesville Historical Resources Committee. And he lives in the town that Jefferson lived in. So let's talk to him. Hi, Mark. Good to see you, my friend. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, Perry.
This is fascinating. One of my favorite places to go in Washington, D.C. is the Jefferson Memorial. I just love it there, and I'll spend quite a bit of time in there and contemplating. And I can't tell you how many people will tell me, well, he was a deist, he wasn't a Christian. That's got to be the big question. How do you respond to that one?
Well, it is the prevailing view. There's so many modern biographies of Jefferson that speak of him in that way, probably more than almost any other founding father. They call him a deist or skeptic or anything but a Christian. But in reality, the evidence shows something quite different from it. And it's not an easy, simple answer, but it's clearly he definitely was not a deist who would be someone who didn't really believe in an active personal God. But he was, and he called himself a Christian his whole life and attended church his whole life, Trinitarian, Bible-believing churches.
All right. So where did the rub come? Why would it be the other way? Why would people say he wasn't?
Well, there's a few different reasons. One, there's in almost all of the kind of biographies of Jefferson, people emphasize some of his statements very late in his life, that in the last 13 years of his life, when he's quite more older than in the other part of his life, and he was at that point he said things that questioned the scriptures being, are they really, valid? Are they not just that they weren't originally from God, but he questioned if they were, mutated over the years in the Middle Ages by different people and so he would say things like that, and he would question the doctrine of the Trinity and things like that. But this was almost always what you hear over and over, these kinds of things. And so this kind of puts him into certainly a questionable category, but so that's what people emphasize. The problem is that's only the last 13 years of an 86-year-long life, and there's so much more of his life that supports the Christian faith and the Bible, so that there really needs to be a sense of context whenever people talk about Jefferson.
All right, so who's the Reverend Charles Clay? What part did he play in Jefferson's life?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked about Charles Clay. Since I live here in Charlottesville, Virginia, it's really been an interesting, fun discovery for me, because it was right here in Jefferson's hometown that during the American Revolution, Jefferson became really close friends with the Anglican clergyman, the priest of his parish, and at that point, once we separated from England, then churches could be independent by law, but they couldn't be before. And so Jefferson started a church. Most people have never believed that, but he started a new church in Charlottesville, met in the courthouse, and its pastor was this Reverend Charles Clay. What's unique about him is he was not a typical Anglican preacher. He was a man born out of the Great Awakening. He was a revivalist. I mean, and I studied his sermons, 50 handwritten sermons I found in the Historical Society. They were very much like, a revivalist kind of preaching. And this was who Jefferson said, I want to be the pastor of a new church called the Calvinistical Reformed Church. And it met right in the courthouse during the War for Independence.
Wow. Boy, you never hear that.
Never.
Wow.
It doesn't fit the paradigm that people have of Jefferson. So unfortunately, almost all of these biographers will leave that little fact out because it just doesn't fit their exceptions.
Wow. Where was he on separation of church and state?
Well, clearly, Jefferson is probably most famous because of this letter he wrote while he was president to some Baptists in Connecticut in 1802. He wrote a letter to friends and supporters, political supporters, who really were concerned that he would not try to promote a national church. And like the Church of England has, and European churches have official connection to the government. And so Jefferson wrote a letter saying, I agree with you. I will not proclaim a national, day of prayer. It was that they didn't want it. These Baptists in New England did not want him to do that. So he said, I agree with you because I believe the Constitution has erected a wall of separation between church and state. So his idea was to keep government basically out of religion, government from becoming any sort of controlling force, whether coercion of people of belief or I think he would be against the modern kind of government role, which is sort of enforcing atheism in almost every period of life. And so that's the real separation church and state, as Jefferson talked about, was not a secular state, but a government separated from trying to dictate how it should be. Let the free market decide. Let people decide what they want to do.
Were you to find anything in your research, Mark, that give an indication of what his private beliefs were about Jesus?
Yes, Perry. One of the things that, again, I would say it's very important to recognize there's phases of his life. When you look at his very beginning phase of his life, he made an oath to support the doctrines of the Anglican Church, which confessed Jesus as Savior and Lord and as God and Trinity and resurrection and all those things. But by the very end of his life, in the last 13 years, we see for the very first time him talking about Jesus without believing him as being fully divine in the sense we think of, as being not really part of the Trinity. Yet at the same time, he didn't deny Jesus' resurrection. He didn't deny everything. So it's a strange kind of view, more of a Unitarian kind of view, but not even modern Unitarianism. It was Unitarianism that was unique to that time, which was still believing in Jesus as Savior. He spoke of Jesus as Savior still, but yet he just kind of believed somehow less than fully Trinitarian kind of view that we might think.
Okay. When he was president, where did he attend church?
That's really a fascinating part of his life. When he went to Washington, and of course, Washington, D.C. was a very brand new city, so they didn't have many church buildings yet. And so the U.S. Capitol became the central place of worship. And he was a part, first of those services that began to be held in the Capitol building. So here's federal property. That's an idea of he supported religion being expressed, worship services in a federal building. But so he worshiped there regularly, but he also went to other churches in Washington as they began to hold services in different places. He was an official member of the Episcopal Church in Washington. We have letters where he clearly shows he was, and he gave money to it, to his church. It's actually amazing. He gave money to many churches in his life. There's probably 300 clergymen and churches we can document in his writings that most people never heard about, that he supported, was friends with, gave money, attended church services. So in Washington, primarily, though, the capital is where you would find him.
Wow. What are your fellow Virginians think of him? Do they consider him a believer?
Probably, again, that's one of the things that is the modern biographers have so I think distorted his image, because in Jefferson's own lifetime there was never a single pastor or religious leader in all of Virginia, especially not in his hometown, but nowhere in Virginia, that questioned his faith, that in any way doubted him to be a believer. In fact, for that matter, there was never a clergyman south of New York City. All questions of his faith while he was alive were concentrated in New England, and that arose because of this political campaign when he ran for president. The Federalists up in New England kind of used religion up there to kind of attack Jefferson. But in Virginia, there was really in his lifetime no question that he was a believer. It was only after his death there began to be different comments and criticisms. And of course, some of his letters from late in life that questioned the Trinity came out, and people began to use that to question, but not in his lifetime. Never did they ever question that.
Well, I want to tell our viewers and listeners, it's called Doubting Thomas, The Religious Life and Legacy of Thomas Jefferson. There's a picture of it there on the screen. I would encourage you, if you're a history buff of any type, and especially if you go to Washington, D.C. and you check out some of the great monuments and memorials, the Jefferson one is just an absolute must. You need to get a copy of this book. And by the way, even though this is Christmas Eve, it would make a great Christmas gift. You may want to check it out at Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Mark, I've been to the memorial on several occasions, and one of the most memorable ones for me is I went there late at night. Of course, they keep it lit at night, and I was standing in there alone. I'll just never forget it, and I'm reading these great speeches that are on the wall there, and my heart, I'm thinking, you can't help but hear and sense the Christian conviction in those speeches. You just can't help but see it.
That's right. Wonderful. At least we have that still there as a testimony of his belief in God. Talking about the God who gave us life, gave us liberty, and his fear that if we ever lose that foundation of the understanding of God as the foundation of rights, then we're in trouble as a nation. Yeah, that's really what he believed. I
can't quote it now, but what's the one around the rotunda, the base of the rotunda, about tyranny?
I don't know either.
It was something like eternal judgment against those over the hearts of the men of tyranny and something like that.
Yes, uh-huh.
I mean, he's basically saying to those who are tyrannical, may God come down on you and get you.
Yeah. Eternal hostility against every tyranny over the mind of man.
There you go. You got it. Yep. Yeah. Well, thanks for your work. Let's stay in touch. What's next? What are you doing next about him?
Well, I'm still doing some more publishing. One of the things that I did also this same year that I put out this book, Doubting Thomas, was another book called The Selected Religious Letters and Papers of Jefferson, which brings about, I published in there well over 50 letters by Jefferson, documents by Jefferson that have never been printed ever before. It's hard to believe maybe for many people to understand, but the official papers of Jefferson published by Princeton University have yet to publish all of his papers from about 16 years of his life. So what I did was I went back and got a lot of those out for the first time in print, at least 50 letters about religion. And I'm trying to get more of that out, trying to let people see the broader context of there's so much more out there. It's not a clear cut, this is Jefferson, the deist. There's a whole lot more nuance and information. And so I hope to get that out. I'm trying to do even now a very in-depth chronology that will help people to see the context of his life in light of these documents. But
that's wonderful.
So I'm going to do this.
Well, thank you, Mark, for your work, and thanks for recapturing the truth about it. By the way, they have a website, doubtingthomasbook.com, doubtingthomasbook.com, where you can correspond with Mark. Thanks, my friend. Keep up the good work. We'll have you back soon.
Well, thank you, Perry.
And Merry Christmas to you. Okay. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Hi, we're back, and delighted to have in the studio with us Bryan Platt. He heads up Jackson County Right to Life. More passion than any one person should be allowed to have, but I appreciate it and love it. Merry Christmas, bud.
Thank you, Perry.
Good to see you. First of all, the annual upcoming Rally for Life. Tell us about it.
Okay, so we're going to do something a little different this year.
We're going to stay warm.
We're going to, you know, this is a true story. So, of course, this corresponds with the Supreme Court decision Roe v. Wade, which was January 22nd, 1973. So every year, Jackson County Right to Life has held a rally at the steps of the Jackson County Justice Building. Right. Kind of a public statement that we're still here, we're not going away, and we're going to see this thing through. Right. I think it was mostly because of the result of the failure of the petition to ban the use of taxpayer money to fund abortions that we kind of stepped back a little and said, you know, the church, God gives the church the power. Mm-hmm. God gives the church the authority. He commands us, you know, to be the salt and the light to the world. And we were, frankly, somewhat disappointed in the church's participation. So as a result of all that, and not to spill the beans necessarily, we've decided to have, instead of a rally, a commemoration. And I'll read our key verse, okay, for the commemoration, and it's Philippians 3:13 and 14, and it says, "But one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and straining on forward to what lies ahead, I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus." And I think that kind of summarizes the spirit and the feeling of the chapter. And really, for all of us in the pro-life movement, and even for those of us who have been complicit in the act of abortion, we've got to set what's happened behind us. And we've got to look forward. And we know that there's forgiveness, there's joy, there's completion in Jesus Christ. And so we're kind of saying January 22nd of 2015, the 42nd anniversary of Roe v. Wade, we're going to hold a commemorative service in the sanctuary at First Baptist Church, and we're going to lay out the pro-life plan, if you want to call it that way. We're going to talk about why the Bible says we should be pro-life and what justifications in the scriptures there are for being pro-life. We're going to talk about the legal system and how our system allows us to make a statement and make a stand as the church for the pro-life movement without any legal issues or illegalities or anything like that. And finally, and the most difficult and the most challenging, and we're going to leave it to our friend Patrick Doyle, is dealing with the past and our complicity in abortion, and see if we can't begin a process where we can bring closure to the past and look forward to the prize of Jesus Christ.
Well, that's coming up this next month, and that will be on the 22nd.
Thursday evening, 7 o'clock, January 22nd, in the sanctuary at First Baptist.
So guess what, folks? You're not going to freeze this year.
No,
You're going to come inside, and I would like to see that place absolutely packed out, and maybe start a new thing here. But this is terrific, Bryan.
Yeah. I'll tell you, there was just this sense in the chapter. I mean, it's just kind of one of those spiritual moments. I mean, it really was, where we're all just kind of, and I mean, there's so much more to it, but we're all just sitting there going, what are we doing? How you know, and again, it's understanding that God gives us, the church, the power I mean, we have the power. Second Chronicles. I mean, we have the numbers, Perry.
Yeah.
We in the state of Oregon, we have hundreds of thousands of evangelical Christians. We have hundreds of thousands of Catholics. All have this bond, the pro-life bond, and we couldn't get 116,000 people to sign on. Something's wrong there.
Yeah. Well, and that was the subtlety of the whole moment. What's happened to us in this conviction and in this about. So I'm glad we're kind of taking a step back, refocusing, regrouping, re-educating, and moving forward. We can forget the past. Those are troubled times and disappointing times. But I don't, there's two words you won't find in the Bible: quit or retirement. They're not there. It says occupy till I come.
Amen, brother. No, that's the old frog and the stork, that little drawing where I think the frog's got the stork by the eye.
So,
oh boy.
I just want to encourage you, mark that down in your calendar, January 22nd. That'll be on a Thursday evening at the First Baptist Church on Crater Lake Avenue. And it's a nice size sanctuary. Let's pack it out. And Bryan, I've seen the layout for the program. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and more on that next year.
Next year.
Yeah.
Next year. All right. Give us an overall. How are things in the state of Oregon?
The state of Oregon, as far as the election outcome goes, was a disaster.
Yeah.
Gail is beside herself, and it's frustrating. We lost really any power that we might wield in the legislature to stop anti-life bills. We have no defensive position at this point in time other than just prayer. So that's something certainly that would be a point of prayer for everyone, is to pray that somehow Christ can be glorified and we can stop some of the nonsense that surely is coming down the pike up in Salem.
Okay,
yeah.
And there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
All right, you want to talk about Luke?
This is just one of those cool little things.
All right.
And this is no dogma, or anything, and it may ruffle some feathers, but it's from my favorite of the gospel writers, the good physician Luke.
All right.
And Luke, when in his opening statements in Luke, well, I better get to Luke if I'm going to read it here, so I'll make sure I get it right. Luke was a physician. And he's regarded as an historian and extremely accurate in his presentation of the facts. And he says, I want to write to you an orderly account. And so what I want to talk about today is from Luke, and it's an orderly account. And I think it's a stimulating, it's thought-provoking, it's profound in some ways, and it's very simple. And I'll try to keep it, and of course you get so many notes here, it's like a jumble where you're trying to get it all out. But anyhow, I want to start with the statement that what the pro-life movement recognizes the sanctity or the personhood of a person from the moment of conception. Right. Okay, and so that's kind of where we're headed with this, and our scriptures are all found in the first chapter of Luke. Okay, so essentially from the moment of conception, our humanity is established. We know we're ordained and sanctified by God, and really our process of physical life from that moment of conception is a continuum. It goes on through, and obviously it's a biggie when we get born, but it's just a series of little tiny steps that lead to adulthood, and then obviously to a decline and a point of natural death. So I want to take this and put this a little bit of a spin on Christmas, because I thought, here we are, this is Christmas Eve, it's a neat time. So it's a lot of fun. So we're going to start with Luke chapter 1 and verses 5 and 8. And now this is the section where Zacharias is serving in the temple, and Gabriel comes and makes him dumb because he doesn't think he's going to have a child. We're going to that's not germane to what this point is, so I'm going to kind of pick and choose here a little bit and just stick with the stuff that has to do with what the message I'm trying to give. So we're going to start with Luke chapter 1, verses 5 and 8. There was in the days of Herod, the king of Judah, a certain priest named Zacharias of the course, or division is another way to describe that, of Abijah. And his wife was of the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. And it came to pass that while he executed the priest's office before God, in the order of his course, it fell to him by lot to enter the temple and burn incense. Okay, so here we have John's father, Zacharias, who doesn't think he's ever going to have a kid because Elizabeth is advanced in age. He is one of the 24 priests that King David processed through Aaron, set up to minister in the temple. And there were 24 priests. They each served 2 weeks over the course of the Jewish year. And I don't want to get into all these other little things, but there were 3 times during the course of a Jewish year where all of the priests came because they were feasts, and all of the men had to come, and so there was lots more sacrificing and stuff. But the result of all this is that because we know Zacharias's course, which is Abijah, we can calculate when his time of service in the temple was.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's the big part of that right here. So, and his time was during the Jewish month of, I think it's Sivan. I honestly don't know how to pronounce the Jewish names, but that's how I see it here, is Sivan. And it's S-I-V-A-N. And a priest had to serve a week, which was actually from Sabbath to Sabbath.
Right.
So it was kind of like 7 days was a week's time. Okay, so we've got that established. We know that Sivan relates to our time of May and June in the Western Gregorian calendar. Okay, so now Luke chapter 1 verses 23 and 24. It came to pass that as soon as his days of service were accomplished, he departed to his own house, and after those days his wife Elizabeth conceived. Now remember that Gabriel has made him mute. He can't speak, but Gabriel's told him he's going to have a child, and he's going to name that child John. And so he gets his service done. That's in May and June. And now he's headed home. There's some controversy as to where he lives, but most likely within 1 day, certainly no more than 2 days travel from Jerusalem. So we're in the 3rd week of that month of Sivan. Now he's got a couple of days to go home, and Elizabeth conceives. Okay. So it's a fairly quick transition of time, okay?
All right.
Okay, so
I've never seen you in preacher mode, but go
well, so here we are, and the reason that all this is important is
about 2.5 minutes.
Okay,
left.
so it establishes the time that Elizabeth conceived. So the next verses are Luke 1, 24 to 27. After those days, his wife Elizabeth conceived and hid herself, saying, "Thus hath the Lord dealt with me in the days wherein he looked on me to take away my reproach among men. And in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God unto the city of Galilee named Nazareth to a virgin espoused to a man whose name was Joseph of the house of David, and the virgin's name was Mary." So the chronology is Elizabeth conceives. 6 months later, Mary visits Elizabeth, and Gabriel visits Mary, and Mary conceives. The 6 months from June by our Western calendar bring us to December. Okay, and that month, according to the Jewish calendar, month according to the Jewish calendar brings us to the November-December section of the Western calendar based on the Hebrew calendar. Now what's interesting is that also corresponds with a feast, a Jewish festival of Jewish feast called the Feast of Lights, which is also called Hanukkah. Okay, and several times in the book of John, Jesus is referred to as the light of the world. John begins his chapter by saying there was light, and the darkness could not abide against the light. So here we have Hanukkah, the festival of lights, beginning somewhere right around our Christmas, the time that Mary conceived Jesus.
Wow.
So from a pro-life stand, according to the testimony of Dr. Luke, Jesus' conception, where he became a person, actually happened very close to or in proximity to Christmas.
Wow. Well,
I just thought that was
beautiful.
It's a neat pro-life message.
It is absolutely a beautiful pro-life message. Don't forget, Thursday, January 22nd will be the pro-life rally, and that will be, you're calling it a commemoration, and that's going to be at the First Baptist Church.
That's right.
And as I've said, Jesus came into this world through a borrowed womb and left this world through a borrowed tomb.
Excellent.
Pretty interesting.
Merry Christmas, Perry.
Merry Christmas, buddy. Thanks
Good
for
to
all
see
you do.
ya.
All right, we'll see you next time. Men, Merry Christmas to you all.
Hi, I'm Jim and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.